and Speak Live. What's up, everybody? I am DJ Anthony from New Jersey. That is our resident PhD, Magnus from Cali, and
Hey guys.
He's safe from the fires, folks. Thank you for asking. So, Magnus, let's talk about. We're two friends talking. We're not giving any advice. So let's talk about kids today. Wimpy, and a lot of times, people our age, right? They like to say, "Oh, when I was a kid, the kids today, yeah, they're not tough like we were. Kids, we're at that age now. We're getting to that point where we're like looking down on the generation that's behind us, or a couple of generations that are behind us." And the kids today, and you're a teacher. I was a teacher. I'm a coach. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's a loaded question, and it depends on, I guess, what specific topic we're talking about. But, are kids today wimpier than when we were kids? I say it depends on what metric we're talking about.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, physically, if we're just talking just purely physically on a macro level, not per person, but on a macro level, I would say yes, kids are physically wimpier because childhood obesity rates are up. Kids don't get out as much. They're connected to their screens. They're sitting home more often. Yes, kids do sports and stuff, but not kids are not as active as we once were, generally speaking, on a macro level. So literally, kids are wimpier and softer, literally, than they were when we were kids. That way. But I also think kids are in some ways, I think kids are smarter today academically than we were. Kids are so much more advanced. I mean, there's 10-year-olds that are already doing algebra and stuff like that. I didn't do algebra until I was a junior in high school. Yeah. So, you could say that's tough, not academically speaking. I don't know, Magnus, what do you think? You're a teacher, you're out there.
I think, so to start out with, every older generation will start looking down and say the same thing. I can guarantee you that my grandpa was saying the same thing about me when I grew up. And then like you seen also like the greatest generation, like they used to call all the men and women that fought in the Second World War and got shipped all over the world and fighting and so on. They were like looking at it when you look at it from that perspective. I mean, talking about guts and balls on all those people, like that's just crazy when you start breaking it down. Like I like to watch documentaries and things like that. So seeing those things is like, yeah, I mean, I could not imagine doing that myself. And I highly doubted that a lot of kids would want to do it, like what they went through, the hardship that they went through. And I think it comes down to hardship. I think that life overall, I mean, Western society, we have a fairly good economy and we have plenty of food and so on. Most of us, I should add, we still have poverty and issues, but let's try to put that aside. I also think that each generation wants their kid to have a better life than they did. So automatically, we have less and less hardship.
Right. But that's relative, right? Because like we say, World War II. Well, that generation was forced into that. I mean, if our kids are forced into something, look, you're either going to sink or swim. I mean, before there was World War II, okay, you had the Great Depression, but then you had the Roaring 20s where everything was easy and everyone had it quote unquote soft. So, I mean, like, you human beings will rise to the challenge. It's human nature. But 100%. If you don't have a challenge, and of course you're going to be soft. I mean, it's not, in a way, it's not the kid's fault today. In a way it is, but it's not, but it is, but it's not,
Yeah, but it's the same thing. Like looking at sports, people are saying sports are becoming like softer. I think sports is becoming smarter as well too, because they're trying to avoid injuries and so on. Yes, I mean, of course, you want to protect everybody that's involved in the sport and whatever it is, right? That's one of the issues that I have with pro sports is the injuries. It's like that's the worst part. I mean, and it doesn't have to be pro. I mean, I've been through it. Injuries suck. Me too. And I think that's the same thing also with when it comes to like academic things. I think it's very split. I think it's you have people that are way more advanced when you have also people that are falling behind a lot. COVID put that was a big issue for a lot of the kids that missed a
Right.
lot
And that was
of
very tough
education.
mentally for a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah, and like physically and things like that too that we need to add, because we were forced to stay indoors, and of course, and like we saw ginormous rise in people taking to alcohol and
Yeah.
drugs,
Drugs, mental. Yeah.
and so we're fighting through that. So hopefully it's we're seeing, I think we're starting to see a little bit of a turn now, that it starts to go back a little bit to what it was before. I don't want to call it normal, because what a little bit what it was used to be. But I think it was down to, like, human beings, we need some type of struggle and hardship.
Yes.
I'm not saying that, like, oh, okay, let's walk right into the woods without nothing and survive. No, it's not about that. But
Right.
it's the feeling of accomplishment,
Yes.
right? And that's why sports is great. Any type of training, any type of, when you see, like, even in academia, or when you're playing video games or anything like that, you feel like you get the dopamine kick from it. But I think it's also like, I think you also want to be proud of actually doing something, that you accomplish something.
Right.
And I think that we're kind of missing that. A lot of people get that through social media, through video games, and so on, but it doesn't really fulfill that full achievement that you
Yes.
feel like.
Right.
It's the same thing, like you see with the Rubik's cube, like being able to do that, and well, because it's a lot about technique and understanding and strategy and so on,
Right.
and layered thinking.
Well, right. So we need things, and maybe it's not World War II, but there'll be another type of challenge, maybe going to Mars or whatever. And by the way, I think kids are tougher in some psychological ways today, because remember when you and I were kids, if you got into a fight or you got bullied in school, you can come home and get rest. Now this follows you everywhere.
Yes,
the bullying
I was
never
going to
ends.
add that.
The bullying never ends. So the kids are actually, in many ways, much tougher than we were, because they don't get respite. They don't get a break. They got to keep on mentally fighting.
And yes, and that's a problem too. And also, like, you have to, it's so much tougher because you're also exposed to so much more too, like
Right.
the internet, good and bad. There's a lot of bad things that the kids get exposed to as well. I mean, the parents can only do so much, even if they try to control it, and they're still gonna have friends that the parents are not having the same kind of control and avoidance. But that comes down to educating and your kid as well too. It's like, hey, like, stay away from that. And I think that kids are not allowed to be kids anymore. They're forced to grow up really, really fast.
Yeah,
and
like
I think
being exposed to a lot of stuff because of their phone that's very adult, whether it be pornography or politics or whatever, financial stuff, or everyone's got a better life than me, but they don't. But
in extreme violence as well too.
Violence.
We can see. I mean, of course we can see everything on video games. We can blame it on video games. We can blame it on TV and media and things like that. But also, like, just watching the news, and also like outlets that are showing a lot of graphic violence and so on, which I myself I'm completely avoiding that, because it's not good and healthy for me. But I'm like adult enough and have an understanding that I need to not look at it. But if you're young, you don't have that, like, life experience and understanding, you will watch it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like I said, so it depends on what we're talking about. Are kids wimpy or not? I know, because people like to throw that around, but I always say, and then I also say, like when people say, oh, these kids today, they don't want to work, they're lazy. That's not true. I have people who work for me who are quote unquote kids. They're, they're 20 years old, 19 years old, and they're some of the hardest working, honest, good, just hardworking, smart kids, And so I think it's like you said, right? Every generation wants to shit on the generation before, after them or before them, whatever. It's American tradition, It's like, please.
I would say that, like, Western society as a whole is doing that. I think the whole world is doing that as well too. I mean, it's just
human nature.
common. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, and I mean, like looking back at it, I'm extremely happy when I grew up when I did.
Oh, me too.
That's like I feel myself that I'm the fortunate one. Yes, it would be awesome to have an iPad and all the shows and stuff like that growing up and availability, but also that not having that made you the person you are as well too.
Right.
But I think it's important, like if you're looking at it as teachers and parents and so on, and coaches and mentors and things like that, is to challenge the kids and also like be pretty, like have adult conversation with them, even like when they're starting to become teens and things like that, and explain like how the real world actually works too, and also what you need to accomplish to have a career.
Of
And
course.
like, because not everybody's going to be YouTubers and TikTokers,
Right.
and especially
Right.
now when we're looking at TikTok might be shutting down in what in about a week. So
Right. Well, yeah.
yeah, no, but looking at it, that's gonna, I think if it happens, that's gonna have a huge impact on a lot of people. They
Yeah.
were
I mean, there'll
like,
be a new app that comes out,
of
whatever. But
course, but still, like you lose your followers just
oh
straight
yeah,
up and down like
that'll
that,
be
and you have to
their
rebuild it.
right, and they'll have to get over that hurdle in their life, right? And
Yeah.
it will hurt some people because they got businesses and things like that. Totally get that. And you know what? It's relative because how far back do you want to go? Our great 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 grandfather and mother would be like, "You have it so easy. You have indoor plumbing. We had to go outside at 2 a.m. with the lions and tigers trying to kill us, and we had to take a shit." So like it's all relative.
Yeah.
We we didn't have cell phones. We had a rotary phone. Wow. Well, my great grandfather would laugh because they didn't have a phone. They didn't have telegram. They had nothing. They had letters.
Yeah.
And so how far back do you want to go? Oh, we didn't even have the printing press. We had to just talk. Hey, how are you?
No,
Whatever.
but that's also something people need to understand. Like we're probably living in the best times ever when it comes to like emergency medical things and so on. Like
Yeah, and
there's
even
so
that's
many things.
relative, right?
Yeah, I mean, and like we all, like most of us, sleep in a cushy bed, and like we have food to eat without an issue. We just go down to the store and pick up whatever,
Right.
and we eat junk and go to we don't even cook food. We don't even go get it. I mean, like things are evolving. Like it's kind of funny when you like. Do you remember? Did you watch the Wall-E? The
Oh yeah,
animated?
I have
Yeah,
seen it. Yes.
yeah. You like how humankind kind of developed into just like hover deck and floating around and extremely obese and stuff like
Right.
that. It's the sad part is that it's a little bit of truth to that.
Of course, and again, it's all relative because people who lived in the 1800s had it easier than people who lived in the 1700s. People who lived in the
100%.
1700s had it easier than people who lived in the 1600s. Like, how far
Yeah.
back do you want to go? So like if you're not a caveman, you can't talk.
Yeah.
So it's
No, I mean,
relative,
no.
but
Yeah, still, I think at least like having a little bit of struggle, that you're forced to do something, it's good for everybody. I'm not,
agree.
and again, I'm not saying like, okay, you're dealing with depression, you're dealing with death, you're dealing with no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, maybe I have to go up early in the morning and walk my dogs and
Right,
get going
right,
and
right.
things like
Or
that.
if I want
And
the fifth pair of sneakers, I got to go out and get a job and not ask mommy and daddy for the money. I already have
yeah,
5 pairs of sneakers. If I want the sixth pair, go get a fucking job.
yeah. No, I mean, and it's the same thing, and I think it comes down to, I mean, we should not just put the blame on the kids either,
Well,
because
that's it. It's 100% parents.
I would say that the adults, and I wouldn't just see the
Adults, yeah.
parents. I would say the adults are because we want to have an easier lifestyle, and automatically your offspring is going to have an easier lifestyle as well, right?
Right.
Until they potentially move out and have to kind of restart. And I think that's important, that like prepare your kids. Is like, hey, I worked X amount of years to achieve this, right? You're not going to have the same thing when you move out. I mean, yeah, of course you wish you had it, but you're not going to have everything that we have or you have right now.
Yeah.
So when adulthood kind of like it's around the corner, like kids needs to understand that it's might be a little bit like step back and rougher for a while.
Yeah, and the parents have to let that happen. Let your kids struggle. Struggling is not bad. I mean, again, not talking about life and death, but like, hey, oh well, they can't get the latest car. Well,
Yeah.
tough shit. Or they can't get the fourth watch. Get your own watch. You got 4 already. You're not going to go on vacation this year. Maybe just your parents are going to go, but you're going to stay back home with the grandparents while mom and dad enjoy their vacation. No vacation for you. You're 19. Go get your own money. But anyway, so but yeah, so it's a mixed thing. It's not either or. But anyways, Magnus, anything else before we leave that you want to impart on us?
No, I think it's like it again, coming back to it, it's like everybody's an individual, take responsibility for your actions and so on. So yeah, I mean it's the same thing. So again, if responsibility for your own actions. If you need help with any type of nutrition coaching or so, reach out. Your email is right there. Hit me up and I'll glad to help you guys.
Thank you, everybody. Check back in for some great content. And that is it. I'm signing us off in 5, 4, 3,
Bye, guys.
2, 1. Goodbye.